Thank you for joining us for another episode of Marking the Times. This is Dr. Mark Hitchcock from here at Faith Bible Church in Edmond, Oklahoma. And I love coming before you every week, kind of this video blog and talking about Bible prophecy and other topics as well. It doesn't have to be prophecy. If you want to send in questions on Facebook, we're glad to answer those for you. And kind of give prophecy updates as well as some things happening in the world. And I want to talk about something today that's really interesting that just happened last week that I got several people sending me questions about. Last week there was something called a super wolf blood moon. And many of you are familiar with the fact that back in 2014 and 15 there was a lot of talk about blood moons. There was what was called a tetrad, where you have 4 consecutive lunar eclipses. That's what blood moons really are. The moon kind of turns a reddish, orangish color. And they were on Jewish feast days. And a lot of people made a big deal about this. John Hagee wrote a book, 4 Blood Moons. A man named Mark Biltz wrote a book called Blood Moons. And they were saying that this was kind of a game changer because these lunar eclipses occurred consecutively on these Jewish feast days. So it was on Passover of 2014 and then Tabernacles of 2014. Then there was a solar eclipse in the middle of it. And then in Passover of 2015 and Tabernacles of 2015, you had the same things again. And they were saying this was a big game changer. You know, all of these great events were going to take place, which nothing happened. And what's always interesting is people who make these outlandish, kind of speculative, what I consider reckless statements, they never come back later and correct it, you know, or come back and apologize for that. So during that time, I wrote a book called Blood Moons Rising. And kind of debunking all of that and really refuting this blood moon theory. Well, there was this blood moon a week ago, again, a super wolf blood moon, and I got a question from one man asking me if that had any prophetic significance. And also he asked me if it had any relation to the federal government shutdown. Now, the answer I gave him is it doesn't have prophetic significance, and it's certainly not related to the government shutdown. But let me just define these terms a little bit. A supermoon is just when the moon appears larger because the moon's closer to the earth. So this eclipse here in January of 2019 was a supermoon. It was a wolf moon because whenever the moon is full in January, it's often been called a wolf moon. And really that came, my understanding is, from Native Americans because the wolves would be howling during that time, the full moon and in January when it's cold. So obviously the term a wolf moon has nothing to do with the Bible. And then the term blood moon is just a lunar eclipse when the moon, again, turns kind of this reddish, orangish color. So the super wolf blood moon, it sounds very ominous, but all it is just a lunar eclipse when the moon happened to be closer to the earth, and it happened in January. So it has no significance prophetically. And one of the things that's interesting about this whole phenomena of signs in the heavens and blood moons, there's 5 main places in the Bible that mention cosmic signs, and especially the moon turning to blood. You have Joel 2. You have Matthew 24. Again, it doesn't mention the moon turning to blood, but it mentions cosmic signs. You have Luke 21. Then you have Acts chapter 2, which is a quote from Joel 2. And then you have Revelation chapter 6. And when you read in Revelation chapter 6 and verse 12, it says, I looked and he broke the 6th seal, and there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth made of hair, and the whole moon became like blood. Now, a lot of them stop there, but there's other signs mentioned as well, cosmic signs. The stars of the sky fell to the earth, probably referring to meteors or meteorites. As a fig tree casts its unripe figs when shaken by a great wind. And the sky was split apart like a scroll when it's rolled up, and every mountain and island were moved out of their place. So a couple things about these passages that mention the moon turning to blood. One is that these seem to me to be supernatural occurrences, not natural occurrences like lunar eclipses. All these things are supernatural cosmic signs that God is causing supernaturally to get people's attention on earth. So they're not natural phenomena like a blood moon. The second thing is when you read a passage here and these other ones that I've mentioned, their setting of them is in the future tribulation period. They're not occurring now. And we're not in the tribulation yet. So any of these signs that we see today cannot be the ones that are spoken of here in Scripture. And again, especially like here in the Revelation 6 passage, it's not just the moon turning to blood, but there's 5 other cosmic signs that go along with that. And none of those things have happened in conjunction with any of these blood moons or lunar eclipses that have taken place. So all that to say that whenever people come along and talk about these blood moons and the prophetic significance that they have, I think they're bringing up something that they're taking out of context from Scripture and trying to apply to today. So I hope that's helpful when you hear these kind of things, to be able to go to the Bible, put it in its proper context, understand what Scripture's saying. So don't let people scare you by these kind of speculative, prophetic subjects that they get into. Well, anyway, I hope that's helpful. God bless you all. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.